beyond the green fence.
Does anybody else need to use the toilet? Okay. Neil here, at home with my kids, as you can hear there in the background. And in this episode, it's all about water, how much we use and waste it, and why it's high time that we took better care of it.
We need more water and more water. Climate is changing. Availability is changing. Quality is changing. So we need to understand that.
That's Ertug Ercin. He's an expert with the Dutch-based non-profit organisation Water Footprint Network, and we'll be hearing a lot more from him in just a minute. But first, a few stats on water before we head into the interview. Water is a basic human right, and thanks to the water cycle, we always have the same amount of water on this planet. However, global heating is changing weather patterns to such a degree that some regions are going dry while others are being flooded by rain. So things are increasingly out of joint, and population growth is not making this any easier. About 4 billion people, that's nearly 2/3 of the global population, already experience severe water scarcity during at least 1 month of the year. Now, here in Germany, we still are very fortunate when it comes to water. We have outstanding water quality, and we still have plenty of it coming out of the taps, despite a series of severe droughts these past years. But just how sustainable is our water footprint in Germany and beyond? And how do our actions here contribute to water shortages in faraway countries? Time to bring in Ertug Ercin from the Dutch-based Water Footprint Network on this. Ertug, just to get the ball rolling here, I dug out my water bill, for last year. And my family and I, that's 3 kids, my wife and myself, we used about 140 cubic meters of water, and that figure, it meant nothing to me. So I tried to sort of translate it into bathtubs, full standard-sized bathtubs. And if I did the maths right, that is the same as almost 800 bathtubs, so more than 2 bathtubs a day. And I was kind of stunned by that, because that sort of put it into context for me. I mean, from your experience, how well or how badly am I doing with my family, compared to the average here?
You're 5 people, right?
Yes.
Approximately 140. If you divide by 5, it's approximately 28 meter cubes per year, which is okay, ultimately, because you're living in Germany. In Germany, there is a good system of water supply. I mean, the pipes and everything are in good condition. And also probably have shower caps, which are efficient shower caps. You're using a dishwasher, washing machine. And these kind of things, you become very, very efficient in water use. But of course, this is one part of the story.
This is the thing, isn't it? Because I was on your website as well, the waterfootprintnetwork.org, where you have this water calculator. And because this figure, these 140 cubic meters, that's just the direct water consumption, right? The stuff that comes out of my taps in the house, or out of the toilets, the showers, the bath, etc. And your organization, it also factors in the hidden water consumption, right? And I went through this calculator. I had to put in a bit of data for the slimmed down version, and it put me at about 3,200 cubic meters per year. And that's 22 times more than is coming out of my taps. So, yeah, what's the story here, Ertug?
Everything we consume, everything, including this microphone, this computer, internet, energy, food, everything needs water to be produced.
We'll go into a few examples in just a minute. Just for our listeners, I'd like to sort of try and put this in a more global context, because this simplified water calculator that you have on your website, waterfootprint.org, you can also put in other countries and have it calculated.
Exactly.
And
for example, in Germany, this is approximately 1,426 meter cube on average. In India, it's approximately 1,000 meter cube. In a country like US, it's 2,800. Why? Because of what we eat mostly. So in countries like US, as you can imagine, there's a big meat sector, or there's a big consumption sector.
Just some examples, on your website also, you have a list of products that people can click through just to find out, how much water goes into the production of these products. And I thought it was really interesting because just some examples here for our listeners, 1 apple was at 125 liters of water goes into one apple. And at the same time, 1 liter of apple juice, so processing it, is 1,140 liters of water, which I thought was staggering. And I mean, it goes on. You also just mentioned meat. The global average footprint of beef, according to your website, is 15,400 liters per kilogram, which is just crazy. But personally, what I find even more surprising, I knew coffee had a bad footprint, but I had no idea how bad it was. It's at 18,900 liters per kilogram. So just one standard-sized coffee cup, and I have like 5 of those per day, equals 130 liters of water. And just to spin this a bit further, I just compared that with the water consumption when I have a shower in my house. And for me, with the shower that I've got, 1 kilo of coffee is the equivalent of me having a 4-minute shower every day for the whole year. That just blew my mind. I could basically stay clean all year round with just 1 kilogram of coffee, with that water footprint. These products, as your website also outlines, anybody can go there, can check it out, waterfootprint.org. They have a huge water footprint that we need to factor in. But perhaps if we talk about not just the consumption, Ertug, but also how much of this water is actually wasted.
That changes per country because production systems and consumption systems changing because how you manufacture a certain product is not the same in every country. The weather changes. Some places it rains a lot, some people it's hot and humid. So all these numbers change. But where do we waste most? First, in our households, every food you waste means the water indirectly or hidden way, you're just wasting the water. So this is approximately can come to 20 to 25% of this food waste is related to this wasted water in Europe, of course. Another element is that there is a food losses and food waste during the production of the product. This is changes per country in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa. This is high because the efficiency of the production is low. So in sub-Saharan Africa can go to up to 20%, 30%, but 15% is approximately on production is losses. So this is what we eat and food.
So as a consumer, if I were to, get rid of my food waste, is my water footprint sustainable then? Or when does it become sustainable?
This is an important question. So it is important where it is coming from. For example, in Germany, our water footprint approximately 1,400 meter cube per capita per year. Around 80% of this is coming outside. It's not from the German water resources in Germany. So the sustainability lies outside the borders of Germany. In overall, this is 40% in Europe. You look at your t-shirt you're wearing. Where is it coming from? Bangladesh, India, China. It's not Germany. And cotton is a very water-intensive product. It's not the German water resources sustainability, but it's about the sustainability in India, probably, or in the Ganges River Basin, where the cotton is grown. And when you look at there is a big problem, water pollution problem. Go to Bangladesh. Rivers run dry or rivers run black. Why? Because the textile industry.
And just by the by, as you mentioned, the textile industry, I came across one figure also for a pair of jeans. That's around 6,000 liters of water that goes into that. Ertug, having talked about that it matters where the water comes from, also the hidden water supply that goes into products, etc. I mean, some people might also say, and I've come across this also, with relatives of mine when the issue's been about water, who've said, water's a renewable source. There's the water cycle, which means that, we have the exact same amount of water on this planet today as we had when it was formed. So water goes round and round. It never disappears. So, where's the problem?
The problem is availability of freshwater resources is quite limited. It's approximately 3% of the global water resources are available for human use. And of course, we need to manage it, but also at the same time, the availability changes per time, per location. but it's also the quality changes a lot. So we cannot use it all the time. We need most of the time infrastructure to use it, made it investments. So we need to abstract it, we need to clean it most of the time, then we need to distribute it. The question we need to understand, we have limited amount and we have huge consumption patterns. We are getting more populated and more populated. We need more water and more water, but approximately the amount stays same, and it circulates around the world. And then climate is changing. This availability is changing. The quality is changing. So we need to understand that.
The climate change aspect you just mentioned, that climate change, is it something that is going to reduce the availability of water in the short term?
That changes per location. Water availability will not change, but the extremity of it changes. Mm-hmm. So when it rains, it will rain more. Mm-hmm. So your infrastructures cannot hold it anymore. Mm-hmm. When it's dry, it is more dry and longer dry. Mm-hmm. Maybe in the whole year it is the same, but what you experience as a dry and a drought will be longer. It will be more frequent and more intense.
Agriculture. You mentioned it is quite problematic in this context, isn't it? Because it accounts for about 70% of water consumption. Can you perhaps explain where is water wasted in this area, and where could we avoid wasting it?
Most of it, approximately, you say 70%. Some researchers say up to 90% of the water footprint lies in agriculture. Where does it go? First of all, there is a part that we cannot avoid because it is evapotranspirated. What it means is that it is used by the plants. Plants use water to grow. And what happens is grow, it's just it goes to the air, so it evaporates. But what we can do, there is also lots of wasting of that water during the irrigation phase. I always believe the solution to water problems starts with the educating the people who directly uses it. In the world, what you see is that the farmer, the actual water user, is really not aware of these issues, not aware of and not using this optimally. Most of it's wasted. They over-irrigate it. Mm-hmm. Or there are some systems, so for example, if you cover your soil with some organic mulching, they call it. So it's simply you're covering the soil with some so that it evaporates less. That's important. There are simple solutions, and sometimes a little bit less water than what is required helps. We call it water stress. If you just stress the plant a bit more, it also gives the same amount of water. This knowledge, it's not there on the farming level.
If we just look at the volume, the global volume, I saw this stat that the total volume of water on Earth is estimated at about 333 million cubic miles, and that the vast majority of it, like 79% of the Earth's water, is in the oceans, and it's salt water. And that 2% of the Earth's water is stored as fresh water in glaciers or ice caps and snowy mountains. So only just 1% of the Earth's water available to us is that fresh water. It's just 1%, and so it's something we really should cherish, right? It is a very small chunk of the water that's available in the world. But just having a look at that stat of the salt water, just how much salt water there is. Why don't we just take the salt out of the seawater and turn it into drinking water? How do you feel about that technology?
And it's a great solution, but it's still very expensive and polluting. It's also about the energy use. Of course, it's a great solution for if you experience extreme water stress or if you don't have freshwater resources. Like in some small island countries, they have to do it because there is no freshwater.
Okay, you just mentioned the cost, that it's not an economical viable solution yet. But if we look at the cost of water, I've got my water bill here from last year, and it strikes me as really quite cheap here in Germany. I paid just over 300 euros for almost 140 cubic meters last year. Is water too cheap in Europe? Can you say that as a blanket statement?
Not in Europe, I think everywhere. It is not the real cost for sure. What they usually charge you is the infrastructure maintenance cost plus a bit operational cost. That's all. It's not about the water itself you're paying for. It's about the distribution systems. No one values the water as a resource.
Hmm.
So that price doesn't include that. That price assumes that the water itself is for free,
Hmm.
which is somehow is a human right, right? That's also important to acknowledge, of course.
But I mean, okay, water in Germany, it's not scarce in Germany. We're very fortunate. Water always comes out of the tap. It's got a fantastic quality. You don't have to worry about drinking it at all. In many cases, it's better than the mineral water you can get. But at the same time, we don't really value it that much, do we? I mean, how can we? I mean, how would you suggest? How can we learn to value water more?
First, understanding the Germany's water footprint lies out of its borders. First, understanding this is important. But at the same time, psychologically, of course, as a human behavior, if it is not an immediate concern, they may not consider themselves as a risk. But I always believe everything starts with awareness.
I mean, why isn't there a label on products detailing water consumption? We've got labels, outlining how many calories everything's got, but why can't we have water consumption on those labels?
There is a big resistance from the producers to put this on the market. Businesses are a bit reluctant to that. Why? Because the numbers are big. They cannot communicate well. And that's why I think people are avoiding it. It's also at the moment, how can you write if it is 15,000, someone can argue, yes, but I have water enough. And that's a difficult argument to say something against.
But just the comparison, I mean, that would help. If I went to a supermarket now and I saw one product, has got like 15,000 liters per kilo, and then another product has only 1,000, I mean, just that comparison in itself would show me, these products, maybe I should buy more of these and less of those.
Yeah. But efficiency is just one thing. Sustainability has another dimension in water, is the total amount. I think it's the carbon is the similar. You can be super efficient, your product may be the least, but you can be a super producer because you're producing 5 times more than the other people. So it's a bit, there are different questions here to be answered. But I agree that on a consumer level, maybe it is awareness. Saving water is saving water. But there's no consensus and there's a resistance from the businesses to disclose this. I think that's why Bain is not happening.
But do you see this changing? I mean, climate change is a reality. Politics are beginning to shift, right? We want to get to net zero by 2050. I mean, how long until we have these labels?
It is a mind shift, probably. And either it will be introduced by the governments. This is also, again, the individual. I always believe that these sustainability issues has lots of related to human behavior. If you talk about these things in Spain, they get it very quickly and they do things to save it because they directly experience lots of huge water problems.
But that's sort of the thing, with the, I mean, it feeds into one another, doesn't it? If we want to educate people and, raise awareness, I mean, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are not aware, just how much water a kilo of coffee has, 18,900 liters. And I think if they knew this and they could see it, on every product, that would change behavior. It has to. I mean, how could you not change your behavior if you saw that figure every time you bought it?
You're totally right. The governments initiated, and that comes not quick. And I think it will hit us when we experience a problem. I think this is the same for any type of resource use. The water is not, it is there always, but it is not infinite. And there is a cost to produce it. And what our mind says, produce more. There's more water, take it more. Clean it more well. Why don't we think about, less pollute it, or let's use it. And I think switch from that mentality will solve lots of problems. We are in a crisis. We are getting crowded. Growth, as population is increasing. We are getting richer, which means our consumption pattern changes. The most populous countries in the world, China and India type of countries, are not still consuming as we do in Europe. And one day, till when they get richer and richer, they will start consuming as we do today in Europe. or in America. And then that's where the problem gets imagined and a bit problematic, because there are billions and becoming more billions. And then ultimately the change of pattern of what we consume is changing. This is alarming. At the same time, availability patterns are changing. We will not find the water where we need the most, when we need the most. We see this a couple of years ago in South Africa. There's huge problems in California. These things are become more and more problematic. And it is ongoing in an alarming stage unless we stop and we understand that individually we can do something, and individually we can change, we can lead to a collective change.
Perhaps just on a final note then, Ertug, individually you say we can change things. Perhaps what would you say are the three most important single steps that we can take as consumers to bring down our water footprint and make it more sustainable?
Consume less, not only the water taps, but also consume less or waste less of food. Ask for transparency from the producers about their footprints, and ask for more regulations from the governments.
Ertug Ercin from the Water Footprint Network. Thank you very much for joining us here with On the Green Fence.
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks.
Okay, so time for my main takeaways from this episode. First off, my hidden water consumption is far greater than my direct consumption. So at least for me here in Germany, it's not so much about the water that comes out of the taps, but although that shouldn't be wasted either, of course, but it's more about the products that I buy, many of which come from abroad, which means I'm kind of exporting water scarcity to other countries in a way. So as to saving water, since agriculture accounts for 70 to 90% of global water use, I can actually save water best by reducing my own food waste and eating less products that are water intensive, such as meat or dairy. Cut down on those and you save way more water than if you try to save water by, getting less water out of the tap, if that makes sense. Also, the fact that, just 1 kilo of coffee is I know I keep harping on about coffee, but I just couldn't get over this. 1 kilo of coffee is the equivalent of 1 whole year of daily showers of about 4 minutes. For me, with the shower I've got at home. That's just mind-boggling. I just can't get over that. So I'm certainly reducing my coffee intake after this. What else? I really think that we need more accurate labeling on our products. I mean, that goes for so many things, but, especially, with water consumption and CO2, we need more pressure here on legislators to actually push this through. And if businesses claim that it's too hard or complicated to come up with something that's super accurate, and varies depending on the production process, etc., I'm telling you now, if any businessman is listening to this, I'd be perfectly happy to have just a rough average estimate or margin, so that I can compare the various products groups when I go shopping. So I wouldn't pin you down on it has to be exactly that stat. A margin would be fine for me, and I think it'd be fine for a lot of other people as well. And it would help raise a lot of awareness among consumers. Obviously, some businesses aren't interested in this because they know full well just how water or CO2 intensive their products are, and it doesn't look good on the label. But that's something I think we really have to push for. Anyway, that's my 2 cents for now. If you have anything to add or any questions, please do get in touch. You can send an email to onthegreenfence@dw.com. And please do feel free to leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts, if you can. In our next episode, I'll be taking a closer look at water scarcity, which affects about half the world's population to varying degrees. Many thanks to my colleague and producer Natalie Muller and my sound engineer Gerd Georgi. And many thanks to you, and yes, I mean you, who's listening right now. Many thanks for tuning in to On the Green Fence and sharing it with your friends and family. My name is Neil King. Take it easy and take care.